afternoon, everyone. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here today. I'd now like to introduce our panel event partners from Stone & Chalk and esteemed panellists today. So to my left we have Mina Zaki, who is AusCyber's National Network Lead and part of Stone & Chalk. We also have Darren Cade, CEO of Arctic Intelligence, a New South Wales UK USA fintech immersion program participant as well. We have Deborah Taylor, the co-founder and COO of OpenSparks, and Ian Yip, the CEO of avertro as well. I just want to briefly touch a little bit on their background, importantly. So Deborah is the co-founder and COO of fintech scale-up OpenSpark, a board member of Stone & Chalk and serial entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience within the industry. She's received multiple awards, including Distinguished Payments Professional, a Lifetime Achievement Award given by the Global Association of Women in Payments. OpenSparks reimagines the world of loyalty and offers by harnessing nascent card linking technology using payment scheme interactions. And then Darren Cade, the CEO of Arctic Intelligence. Arctic Intelligence is a global regtech company that has developed enterprise risk assessment software, enabling regulated businesses to better assess, document and manage their financial crimes risks. Trusted by over 200 clients globally, including in Singapore, Arctic Intelligence solutions simplify the process of conducting financial crime risk assessments. And then we have Ian Yip, the CEO of avertro. Avertro focuses on the business representation of cybersecurity, building a permanent bridge to translate cyber in a normalised way. Avertro aligns everyone with the cyber mission to ensure its success. Following their entry into our Going Global program, the venture-backed software as a service company recently launched a footprint in Singapore as part of a major push into the Asian market. And then joining us online as well from Singapore is Janice Goh. She's the New South Wales Government's Trade and Investment Commissioner in Singapore. She's worked previously at Austrade, looking after food and agribusiness, and has facilitated trade and investment around the Australian-Singaporean Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Before that, she's also worked in the Singapore's Ministry of Trade and Industry, supporting both Singapore's policy and industry development initiatives for the tourism sector. It's wonderful to have you here today. My name's Jenny West and I'm the DepSec of Trade and International for the New South Wales Government, and it's my privilege to be here. As part of Investment New South Wales, we have representatives around the globe and are putting more people in, like Janice, offshore. We're very passionate about the regtech, fintech sector as well, and we think there's huge opportunities between Singapore and New South Wales to continue this very strong partnership. Singapore enjoys a very stable political system and is signing free trade agreements and encouraging economic diversification to boost competitiveness, with a focus on biomedical scientists, financial services and tourism. With Janice and some more people in the New South Wales Singapore Trade and Investment team, we're enhancing the visibility and opportunities for New South Wales businesses to engage in Singapore. We're also already supporting around 15 technology companies through our New South Wales Going Global program. As you'd be aware, Sydney is the 13th strongest fintech hub in the world, with over 60% of Australia's 700 active fintechs in Sydney. We look forward to hearing from the panellists today and working with you. I'd also like to say our thoughts are also with our Singaporean counterparts as they go into a heightened cluster with COVID, and we're wishing you today a very safe and healthy environment for this event. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everyone. We will kick on and attempt to demystify exports and taking our amazing capability that we have here in New South Wales right across the world, but in particular into Singapore. So Thanks, Janice, for joining us. I will look at you there, but you're also behind me, so we'll figure it out. All right, I will go into my first question, and I'll start with Darren. I'll just start with yourself because you're sitting right next to me and you're in the line of fire. So, Darren, Arctic Intelligence is a global regtech company that has developed enterprise risk assessment software. Can you describe your general customer base and why Arctic Intelligence was established to meet the needs of such customers in the regtech industry?
Certainly, yeah. So our typical customers are banks and other financial service businesses. Typically, anybody that's regulated under the anti-money laundering regulations here in Australia and around the world. And there's a number of other industry sectors, such as the gaming sector, lawyers, accountants, real estate in overseas markets that are also regulated. So all of those sectors need to comply with the regulations, and they have to take a risk-based approach. So they have to understand what their risks are and put in the appropriate measures to manage those risks. And typically, that process is not done very well, and it's a very manual, time-consuming process that involves whole ecosystems of spreadsheets, even in the biggest banks. So we thought that surely, technology and data can provide a better outcome for the boards of those businesses in how they get oversight across the organisation and how they manage those risks. So we developed some software that basically walks people through a process, looks at particular data points in their organisation and creates a risk profile for them so they understand what their risks are and they know what to do about them. So that technology can be used for small businesses and for very large businesses. So we have major consulting companies using the platform, mid-tier banks here in Australia that you'd be familiar with, all the way down to small companies, fintechs, that are entering the market, need to comply. It's a very quick way to get up to speed and make sure you stay compliant over time.
Mm-hmm. So a term that we use in cybersecurity is secure by design. So at foundational, maybe we need compliance by design.
Absolutely. and that's part of the service we offer. It's an ongoing subscription so that we continually update the content in there. So if the regs change or there's things happen that affect a particular country's risk rating, we feed all that back to customers and keep them up to date all the way through, so they can sleep at night and know that as far as their AML framework is concerned, that they're compliant and they'll stay compliant.
Excellent. Thanks, Darren. Deborah, I'll go to you next. And so OpenSparks is a global loyalty rewards enablement platform. I love my loyalty points. Who doesn't, right? I mean, who doesn't like getting freebies? If you're not putting your hand up, you're a liar. Now, how did OpenSparks come about, and who are some of the organisations you enable here and globally?
Okay, well, OpenSparks came about through the need to combine the huge global silos of loyalty and payments. So my background, I've had 30-odd years, close to 30 years in payments. And what we have found is that when you make a payment, it's just really a dumb transaction. All you do, you get your purchase, but that's it. Nothing else occurs from that payment method. Loyalty, on the other hand, has got, you've got more loyalty memberships in the world than people. So a lot of people have, several loyalty memberships, and of course you've got to have a separate card or a coupon for that loyalty to occur. So they're two silos that operate, and so we bring them together by making the payment method the method of getting the loyalty or the points or the cashback offer that's provided by the merchant. So we call it payment linking or card linking. So it means that there's no two-card swipe now to get your loyalty. It takes a lot of the friction out of the whole process of making a payment and getting loyalty points or loyalty cashback. So we started that because we could see a need, and the scheme I talk about, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, EFTPOS, GCash in the Philippines. So they started opening up their data silos of the transactions. So we were able to get the transaction data between a linked program or a merchant and a linked consumer, we get that data. We've got a rules engine that runs rules on that data, and then we provide the value back to the consumer. It's usually merchant funded. So in Australia in particular, interchange changed a few years ago, so the point value that banks were able to give to their credit card users was reduced dramatically. So your Qantas point value went down, or your credit card point went down in value, and so we started to move towards merchant funded. So now the merchants fund the reward, and again they do that because they can target the consumer. So we're able to really build up information on the consumer to know what offers they do want. So we can really target the spend that they have, and the merchants fund that.
That's awesome. Thanks, Deborah. And Ian, Avertro is a New South Wales-based cybersecurity company, and you're truly growing and becoming global. Can you tell me what inspired you to establish Avertro, and who are your typical customers?
Yeah, so we're 20 months old now. So still fairly young. Our journey is just starting. I'm 20 years in cybersecurity. I'm the ex-APAC CTO for McAfee. I'm ex-EY director here in Sydney. So I know a thing or two about cybersecurity. And what inspired me, we are also founded out of the Antler VC accelerator here in Sydney as well. So we've got that backing and a few other VCs. But in seeing a lot of the problems in my prior roles and having executives, cybersecurity leaders, board members get really frustrated at this communication gap we have in cybersecurity between all the technical geek speak that we've been used to speaking over the years in cybersecurity versus nowadays it being very much a board level everyday issue, is on the front page every day. This gap makes it difficult for cyber leaders to fight for what they need and justify what they need, and it makes it difficult for boards and executives to make an informed, defensible decision on cybersecurity based on business needs and business outcomes. So that's what inspired me to start at Avertro and try and solve this problem, because it's been very manual, very inefficient. The clients that I was serving in my Big Four EY consulting days and even the McAfee weren't really getting what they needed. So we are a platform that fills the gap and gives them a repeatable way to make informed business decisions around what really matters in cyber and what's essential today.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And can you tell us a little bit about, or actually, you know what, I might ask all of you this question. Can you describe your journey and the steps that you've taken to scale and export globally? And also, what markets are you currently operating in? So, Ian, whilst we're with you, why don't you get it going? Yeah,
so our customers tend to be, we're very Australian focused for now, but obviously with an eye on Singapore and other parts of the world. Our customers tend to be mid to large size financial institutions, education providers, higher education, government to a certain extent. So big enough to have to worry about the business wrapper around cyber and make these decisions. Financial services are a good one because they definitely all care about cybersecurity. So those are the key industries we have customers in. I mean, the growth in what we've been able to achieve has also been pretty good. As of literally an hour ago, I got a signed contract from a very big Australian-listed financial services company, so I'm having a good day, which is great. So in my head, I'm doing the sums. I think that's 8 times year-on-year revenue growth compared to this time last year with that deal. So it's very relevant, right? In terms of scaling, going global, I think if you think about the industries that have the same problem elsewhere, like we're not an Australian-only company in terms of the problem we solve. You go to Singapore, they have the same problems. You go to the US, they have the same problems. You go to Europe, they have the same problems. Any developed country has the problems I've just described, which means they're all ripe for us to help them solve this problem. And it's a similar kind of industry, and which is why we picked Singapore in terms of being on the Investment New South Wales Going Global program, because Singapore is a financial hub and of fintech and banking and insurance for Asia. So if you're going to go after the fintech market, then Singapore is a logical place for us to be. The government of Singapore is also very, very supportive of cybersecurity in general. The whole ecosystem there is built around being a first world leading nation for cybersecurity and cyber resilience. They have laws and all that kind of stuff and funding from the government to do that. So in terms of our other target market, it made perfect sense to us. So we've made a concerted decision to do that, and we actually also just hired our Singapore business development leader as of last week. So we've got that going for us, as well as, and in case you can't tell, I was born in Singapore, but I grew up here, so I've got a lot of relationships there, as well as in my prior roles, pre-existing relationships. So everything I've just talked about lines up in terms of why it makes sense for us to go there and the markets we're going after.
All the stars align. Fantastic. Okay, Deborah, how about yourself? What steps have you taken to scale and export globally, and who are your typical customers without giving too much away?
Well, because we deal with the major schemes, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, we've been able to actually meet with very high-level people within those organisations whenever I go to a new country. So I used to go to Singapore once a month, so I'm really missing my trips up there at the moment.
No, that's two of us, because I spend most winters in Singapore and I miss it.
Yeah. But also anywhere we go in the world, we can go and knock on the MasterCard or Visa or Amex's doors and say, hi, we're from Sydney, Australia. We've got a global platform. And so it's been really good to be able to get connections within these schemes globally. And that's really helped us because our first program was launched in the Philippines. It's with a 30 shopping mall group. And they had the problem of each of their 10,000 merchants had a different point of sale POS device. So you couldn't actually, to get a second card to actually go and ping all the devices to get your points was just too hard. So the only way they could do it was by the payment method. So it was a perfect use case for our technology to use to launch their program. Of course, that got launched December 2019, and then COVID hit. So it's been a very slow growing program because they're actually not allowed to promote any events there to actually incite people to come to their malls. So it's been quite frustrating. But having said that, we have had a lot of our programs delayed due to COVID, but also we've had a lot more people come to us from different countries, actually, more outside than inside, wanting to have a loyalty program when we're through all of this. So we're starting a program in the Caribbean because the US and Canada, the consumers spend, I think, $70-odd billion a year in the Caribbean. So there's a program we're launching there for US and Canadian cardholders. And we're also launching a dining program in the UK with one of the largest hotel chains globally. And so they want their members to be able to get points for dining out at non-hotel restaurants so they can give more value back to their consumers. So that's launching in the UK again when we can get that launched up there, hopefully later this year. And they'll bring that down to Australia, New Zealand as well. So they're just some of the programs that we have. But yeah, my first foray was really going up to Singapore quite a lot. We had a strong relationship with the schemes here. So we had great introductions to the schemes up in Singapore. And so, we've got very close ties up there with the schemes. It's been really good to strengthen those relationships. And I think I'll just make a point that one thing I find really good about Singapore in particular, it's got a lot of expats there from all over. So they've come to another country to work, and so they're really open to actually bringing new people into their circles, into their groups. A lot of events happen in the evenings. Like when I'm up there, I'm out for dinner and drinks every night. It's exhausting. But it's the way you do business up there. And so they're really open to having that type of relationship with you. So, some of the people I work with up there now are really firm friends of mine. So it's great. I love it.
All I got from that was that UK have now taken New South Wales Government's Dine and Discover vouchers and they're rolling it out back in Australia. Is that correct? No, I'm kidding. But hey, Dine and Discover vouchers in Singapore. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, Darren, I'll come to you. And yep, same thing. What steps have you taken to scale, and who are some of your major clients?
Yes,
or customers?
So similar to Tim and avertro, our technology is applicable all over the world. The regulations differ slightly from country to country, but broadly it's the same. So we set the technology up to be global from the start, and always had a view to try and build the team here because it's a fantastic place to be, and support as much as we can from here in New South Wales. And Singapore is actually home to our first customer and still probably one of our largest and most important customers in one of the consulting firms, and an expat at that. So as the key sponsor. But as Deb said, it's kind of that regional hub. And so what was good for us about that initial engagement was that Singapore was the regional hub for 13, 14 countries across Asia for that particular business. And so it was a very, very good way to get into the market in that regard and really cover a lot of jurisdictions all in the one go. And that really came about through just leveraging contacts and networks here to introduce us to people in overseas markets. And I think probably like a lot of businesses in the early days, your sort of export aspirations really are based around attending events. So you've got Singapore's got the fantastic fintech festival, and or if we were head to a UK regtech summit or something like that, it's stopping there, and it's just networking, spending a few days in the market, getting to know people, meeting people, and that's how we've built the relationships both in Singapore and overseas. So we've actually got customers across about 12 countries now, and we've got a team of 18 people, and they're all based here at bar 2. So far we've been able to do that and support everyone in that manner. And have been able to grow, markets in the UK and Canada, working with consultants and partners to resell the platforms. So yeah, that's sort of how we've approached it. And obviously, there's a lot of resources out there through government, state level and federal level. And a lot of help that you can tap into in terms of that networking, engagement of local people, the export development, marketing grants, those sort of things. So it's just using the resources that are there to as much as you can to really scale in the early days.
Fantastic. And thank you for that segue, because we've got one of the best resources over in Singapore who joins us today, Janice. I'll bring you into the conversation now. And Janice, the first question I'm going to ask you is that from an industry activity perspective, Singapore is one of the largest export markets for Australian providers. Are you seeing a similar alignment from your perspective in Singapore?
Yes, thanks, Mina. So welcome to everyone from sunny Singapore. I must say that I really wanted you guys to come here as well. So hopefully there is a travel arrangement coming up soon. And to answer your question, cross fingers. So to answer your question, Singapore is actually Australia's 6th largest trading partner in both exports of both goods and services. So beyond the traditional exports, such as your food, education, energy, we do see a growing and vibrant ecosystem of Australian companies as well as tech startups basing their regional HQs or setting up offices in Singapore. So I think Ian and Deb, as well as Darren, did a great pitch for Singapore. So what's so attractive about Singapore for Australian companies is really the supportive digital infrastructure, the friendly regulations, as well as the accessibility to the regional markets. So a lot of companies actually come here as a base for ASEAN. And of course, our close bilateral ties, things like your CSP as well as your digital economy agreement, it actually provides opportunities for our companies to partner on strategic areas in data innovation, digital IDs, fintech, cyber, e-certification. You name it, we have it.
Fantastic. And Janice, can you provide us with, a brief outline of what kinds of angel, seed, and VC investors are potentially available in Singapore?
Yes, so we do have a growing VC ecosystem here. And currently, we are home to more than 3,800 startups, 270 VC funds, and about 190 incubators and accelerators. So in Singapore, we are also seeing an influx of sophisticated investors setting up family offices. as well as sovereign wealth funds investing into private startups as well. So I think the advice that I can give is that currently a lot of VCs are very focused on certain mandate. So for example, if you're a cyber startup, look for those that focus on cyber because they can actually provide more than funds. They do provide strategic partnerships as well as advice as well. And of course, as our ecosystem matures, we are seeing bigger ticket size and moving deals being done at later stages as well.
And is that something that you guys do maybe on a website or something where you give a bit of a breakdown of the ecosystem as to, which VCs are better suited to, say, cyber, regtech, fintech?
Yeah, we do have great resources for that. And of course, I am the resource that you can use. So I will be able to provide targeted advice on, what kind of VCs will be good and at what stage of funding do you need. And of course, questions about who is funding you in Australia already, because Singaporean investors are savvy and they want to know that you do have cash flow to actually have a long runway before they even start funding you.
Fantastic. And what are some of the kinds of support, I mean, other than, what you just described, that New South Wales businesses being world-leading capability? I mean, we truly do have world-leading capability here in New South Wales. What are some kinds of support that yourself and New South Wales Government can provide to these businesses over in Singapore?
Yeah, so I do have a great New South Wales team with me. I think they're all sitting there, and we do have various grants and support for new exporters as well as tech startups. So, for example, a very popular one would be the New South Wales Export Assistance Grant Program, where we provide reimbursements for marketing as well as certain development activities. And of course, we have our Going Global program, where avertro is on the program, where we provide mentoring as well as business matching opportunities. And at the federal level, we also have schemes like Entrepreneurs Program as well as Lending Pads. And again, same thing, they provide resources as well as funding for startups. And just to add, if you actually need more assistance before entering a new market, we also have schemes like the Minimum Viable Product Grants, as well as your Building Partnership Grants, to actually support your prototyping as well as early stage commercialization. So I know it's a handful, but we do have a website dedicated to this, and we have our email that Mina will share with you later. Just feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to help.
Fantastic. Thanks, Janice. And what is your advice for companies who are here or who are our audience listening online? What is your advice for the next steps of that technology companies can take to who are ready to export to the Singapore market? What should they do next, other than contact yourself?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I think the first is identify the gaps in the Singapore market. What is your solution or your startup trying to solve? And who are the target segments here in Singapore? And then, of course, do your homework in terms of regulations. Who are your competition? Because it's quite a highly competitive world here. As you can imagine, it's open, it's easy. So a lot of companies actually come into Singapore. And of course, if possible, like what Deb has said, come to Singapore, travel to Singapore, and it's best to learn things firsthand. And of course, after that, decide who your customer acquisition strategy should be, as well as the distribution models, and then look for partners.
Fantastic. I'm going to jump over to the audience. Does anyone have any burning questions? This is your chance to ask either one of our panelists or Janice. Yes, Vish. Okay. Yep, so I'll just repeat that question, Janice. What kind of help and support is available to fintech companies trying to get over compliance hurdles in the Singapore market?
Yeah, so I think the Singapore government tries to make it as easy as possible for companies to come into Singapore because we are known as the Asia's fintech hub. So in 2016, they actually have a fintech regulatory sandbox, which is a sandbox designed to help companies have easy and faster to market access. So one of the key initiatives, for example, is that MAS actually launched this APIX platform for startups actually to test their solutions. And then if your solution is viable and meet the regulatory standards, as you can imagine, the regulatory standards will be very thick, lots of standards for banking and fintech. And once you meet that, you can actually use the platform for ASEAN scaling as well. So that's just one of the examples of how the Singapore government is also trying to get startups into Singapore.
Thanks, Janice. Does that answer your question, Vish? Yeah, awesome. Any other questions? Okay, I have one, and it's difficult enough to find the right people to employ for your businesses here in person, let alone finding employees in another market. Ian, you just shared that you have just landed your business development person over in Singapore.
Yep.
And Darren, you said you've got 2 staff who are overseas. Could you guys give us describe your journey? Like, how was that for you? Because clearly, in the day and age that we live with the limitations on travel, you need people on the ground over there. So how difficult is it to do that? And then I'll jump over to yourself as well, Janice. So Ian, if you can start us off.
Like any job ad, just got to advertise a job. So very specifically, we used actually it was opportunistic, obviously, but we obviously were on the New South Wales Going Global program. We use that as a way to communicate that we're launching to the market. On the back of that, we actually said to the journalist that we were talking with that we were actually hiring there. So that was step 1. Step 2, we actually had to put a job ad up to say we're hiring. So, our website, LinkedIn, everywhere else can put it up. And then obviously it's a hiring process. I think we probably got about 80 or so applicants, which is a decent amount for a business development person. And I personally had to, because we're still small, I personally had to filter everyone's CV and then shortlisted about 20 people. And I interviewed all of them, all on video, because I can't fly over there. So I spent just 2-3 weeks solid just interviewing people via video chat for a bit, and then obviously there were the follow-up interviews and so on. So there's no shortcut to do it. You just got to get the message out there, screen the people. Obviously, the team around me also had to interview some of these folks when we shortlisted them to about 3 people. And ultimately, we arrived at the right person just to be able to get into the market for us and also accelerate our aspirations and our channels and all that kind of stuff. In parallel, obviously, one thing I haven't mentioned is we were also recruiting channel partners. So it's kind of a parallel thing we have to do. So we are speaking to a few channel partners as well, which kind of helps. So they kind of go hand in hand. It's easier for the business development person that you hire to hit the ground running if you've got channel partners and vice versa. So that's how we got to where we got to. The process probably took about 3 or 4 months all up just to get to that person. Yeah.
That's actually really good compared to how long it takes to recruit people right here in Sydney. So, Deborah, do you have any?
Yes, I do, because really the way we operate now and have done for the last 12 months or so is really by Zoom or whatever channel you need. And so to even sell to into another country is difficult because you can't go there. So luckily I had great relationships, so I can continue that easily on Zoom, but I've had to develop new relationships via Zoom to sell my product into that country. So I think in many ways now we are more used to doing business via telecom, so we've just had to morph from, being able to go and meet people and recruit that way, or same as trying to find, getting a new product or getting a new customer online. We've just had to find different ways of doing it. So I think we can actually morph what we've learned into employing people, developing a new business via Zoom. But of course we do want to get face-to-face eventually, but we've had to learn how to do it, and everyone's had to learn. So I think it actually has made the process easier because we all had the expectation this is the only way we can do business right now, so we've got to learn how to do it.
And Darren, you said you have 2 staff overseas. Do you mind if I ask where and how difficult, easy? How was it?
Yeah, so for us it was the UK, and it was pre-COVID, so slightly different experience. But the way we approached that is it was a couple of things. One, to understand the market better, but also to look for the right people. I went over there 4 or 5 times in 1 year and probably spent 4 or 5 months in total in that year in the UK, in the market, meeting people and just networking. And I spoke to recruitment consultants, I spoke to everybody I could to find out, who are the people that could help in risk and in technology from a sales and business development point of view. And what you find when you do that is that everybody starts referring you back to the same people. And that's what happened with us. And we didn't have a very extended recruitment process. We were very lucky we found someone that was looking for a change that fit the business very well, and we could move on that quite quickly. But I think it would have been extremely difficult to do that during COVID. You sort of want to do the same thing, but to get those appointments and to do it over Zoom and to just have those kind of quick coffee chats that you can have when you're in market and you have an excuse to approach people and say, I'm here for a month, I'm keen to catch up, and it's much harder. And so I think it would probably take you twice as long to do that in a virtual way.
I suppose the saving grace for Singapore is that the time difference isn't that massive, and so it is a lot more easier to navigate calendars and rather than having to. I mean, I've done meetings at midnight with the UK.
Yeah.
Have never had to do that with Singapore because Singapore's great. No. Now, any other questions from the audience? Do we have any online questions at all? No? Okay. Right, well, I have lost track of time, Sam, so let me know how long we have. We've got 5, great. All right, so since we have 5 minutes, Janice, I'm going to pose that same question to you and ask, is there an opportunity for businesses that are coming into Singapore to tap into an ecosystem where they can find information about how to recruit staff, who to find as channel partners, etc.?
Yeah, so I think in terms of recruitment first, beyond the traditional network like LinkedIn, I think it's very good to tap on your contacts as well, your existing contacts, because I think where we see traction, it's through warm intros. And I think it's very similar for even customers as well as channel partners, because a warm network is always easier. That leads you to Zoom later. And then in terms of resources, yes, so there are actually 2 various platforms. First is with the New South Wales Government. We provided some resources in terms of how you want to scale as well as information about the Singapore market. And second is for Singapore-based websites. So websites like the Economic Development Board, EDB, as well as associations such as, for example, if you are looking at fintech, use Singapore Fintech Association. They do have very good published reports as well as up-to-date network as well as events, even though it's all virtual. But I think it's good for you to participate, learn more about the industry as well as talk to people for both recruitment of partners or employees.
Thanks, Janice. Okay, so since we don't have any more questions, actually, panelists, do you have any questions? I mean, you never get asked if you've got questions.
No. Well, so who here is from Singapore? Who here is working in Singapore currently? Got a business over in Singapore? Yeah, one. Who wants to do business in Singapore? Oh, good. Okay. Just wanted to know who was in the audience. Thank you.
Who wants to travel to Singapore?
Yes.
All right, everyone, thank you so much, panelists, for your time. Janice,
Pleasure.
thank you so much for joining us, and audience, both online and in person, thank you so much for your time and making it all this way. We will be posting the video of this event at a later stage online. In the meantime, if you've got any questions that you were too shy to ask, please send us an email and ask away. You can never ask too many questions, so just keep asking. All right, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.